Welcome in to the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I just lost a tooth.
It's gonna be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
This is some back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. To a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, we are built by RMB Builders. As always, here on this Wednesday. Sorry for the late start. Lloyd got thrown a curveball to start.
Back on the board.
What happened, bro?
I don't know. It was a computer, man. So we'll just take it for what it's worth. Move on.
We're
on to Cincinnati.
Hell yeah. That's right. Let's get back to football.
Yeah.
All right, so coming up today on the show, we are going to talk to Jacques. Doucet is going to be through here at 7:30. We'll actually have him on a video call as Jacques got a lot of stuff working and moving here. We'll catch you up on some stuff that's happened this summer, obviously with Red, Rock, and Blue, but moreover, get you ready for LSU football as they are back on the practice field today. Remember, daily, we are built by RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and the crew, rmb-builders.com is where you can find them online. They're on Instagram as well at RMB Builders is where you can search them. And then daily, our phone line is brought to you by our friends over at Southern Regional Medical Center. Shout out to Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan, BJ and the crew over at Southern Regional Medical Center, formerly Metropolitan Health Group. Same people, same great services. Get in touch with them online. Real doctors, real solutions. Mr. Funds Travel, I believe they've closed up or still have maybe a spot or two available to the on the trip to Orlando. You can check it out online at mrfundstravel.com. I do know that they are planning a year out, going to be putting a trip together for Las Vegas for the opener in 2024 versus USC. So if you want to get out in front of that one next year, going to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, Mr. Funds Travel will have some information coming up for you here shortly. All right, we got some really good sound bites from Garrett Nussmeier. Good job by Lloyd for breaking this down and turning it around. Nussmeier met with the media yesterday for the first time in fall camp. And, man, as we heard from Nussmeier and he was able to speak with the press, it was refreshing to hear from Garrett in the role that he has really accepted here in year 3 for him in high school. So, out of high school at LSU. So we'll get to a couple of those bites here coming up on the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by RMB Builders. But we will also react yesterday to another day on the practice field without Denver Harris. And look, we confirmed this with you yesterday morning. Denver is still on the team. Coach Brian Kelly is going to meet with the press today, which will be, I know a lot of people will be paying attention to with obviously the news coming out with Denver Harris over the last couple of days. Sonny Ship of Go247, our good friend Sonny, reported yesterday that Harris had a pretty big role in a fight that took place at practice before instigating it a little bit further afterwards in the locker room. This is the fight that we talked about last week, and Wilson Alexander of NOLA.com detailed the fight that occurred on August 7th, stating that punches were thrown, guys were taken to the ground, and multiple people were involved. Brian Kelly was not happy with the fight. This is something that we've talked about. In fact, last week, I believe this show and other shows were getting ridiculed on how much time they were spending on the fight because it was a little too dramatic for the amount of time. Look, there's not a lot happening in fall camp, and when you can get something that you can chew on,
You run with it.
We were doing it, but it looks like this was a pretty big deal, right? I mean, this was an issue that not only was on the practice field that had guys thrown out of practice, but it carried over into the locker room as Sonny and Wilson were reporting, and now it seems like there is some fallout. Now, I can tell you what we were reporting here yesterday. Some of those, some of those minor step outs of being late for team meals, still without question an abuse of the rule. But from the fighting standpoint, we did not report that. I am hearing with Sonny and Wilson reporting, not disputing at all, but there was also some minor things of being late for team meetings and team meals and things like that. So it has been not necessarily one thing after another, but it's been a line of items that you look down and you say, you're getting close. It's getting close here to running out of real estate and not being able to fix this from LSU and Harris's standpoint. Like I said yesterday morning, from at least Denver's standpoint, I was told that the message hit from what I was told. Whether or not this is the time where ultimately the lesson is learned, I don't know. We'll see, but we will find out here over the next couple of hours with Brian Kelly speaking to the to the media, to the press, that you'll get some update. I believe that Kelly will address it to as much information and give as much information as he can on it. I really believe with what we saw early on in the commitment from Brian Kelly in fall camp, where he got out in front saying, look, we're not playing games with injuries anymore. We're being as transparent as they possibly can from a legal standpoint. There's still some things legally from HIPAA and some other agreements that are put in place where you just can't give a lot of information on some things. But as much information as they can give, Brian Kelly has been pretty steadfast in saying that they will. I mean, there's no use in hiding and playing coy and being trying to play shade when it's not that big of a deal, right? And it causes more conflict in-house probably than it does of people speculating what's going on outside of the house. So I am anxious to hear what Brian Kelly has to say coming up after the workout this morning. They'll be on the practice field this morning at I believe 10:45. Either 10:45 is when the media is allowed in or when practice starts, but sometime around lunch, Brian Kelly will meet with the press, and I'd imagine that this will be, when dealing with Denver Harris, this will be a lot of the topic, or at least something that is addressed very early on by Kelly, maybe even in an opening statement, or when he opens it up to questions. I'd imagine that the first 2 or 3 questions will be centered around what the status, what happened, and what's the future of Denver Harris on this team.
This is normal media availability. It's not just a one-off. It's not a Tyrann Matthew situation where you're calling a presser for one specific reason. He's having to talk regardless, right?
No, this was a scheduled press meeting with fall camp on the books. This was something that they had already on the schedule. This is no, by any means, some special call for a press conference. Like I said, and I believe mic'd up, confirmed yesterday afternoon. I mean, Denver Harris is on the team. He's still
it's just missing in the photo.
Still on the team. He's just he's not around right now, right? I mean, So, you know.
What do you expect to hear?
I expect to hear what happened. I think Brian Kelly is you know, I mean,
Not going to sweep this under the
I
rug?
love how Kelly handles the media. I really do. I mean, I know that from a football coaching standpoint, you got to, you know, there's some things that we don't know. There's some secrets that they want to keep. There's some things that they want to keep, you know, kind of tucked away until, you know, the rest of the world sees it. But for the most part, Kelly is as open of a coach as I have ever covered. I mean, like, he strikes me as someone, when he gives you information, he's genuine. Like, there's no effort of trying to play keep away, right? Like, I mean, it's just like, this is what it is. This is how it happened. And this is what we're going to do about it. And from that standpoint, you know, I mean, I appreciate someone like that. So if you ask me what do I expect to hear at the press conference today, I expect him to tell us what happened. Like, I expect him to tell us why did Denver Harris miss the team picture? Denver Harris missed the team picture because of X, Y, and Z. What's the status of Denver Harris on the team? Denver Harris's status on the team is X. What's the future of Denver Harris, and can he make an impact? Denver Harris can make an impact, and he can play if X, Y, and Z happen. Like, okay. Now I'm pretty clear on what's going on with Denver Harris.
Right,
You know,
because
I mean,
there is a world where he can almost – he's going to try to speak – you saw him do this last year, Brian Kelly, where he kind of speaks to his players through the media. And this is what he did with Kayshon Boutte. He didn't pull any punches whenever he spoke to the media about Kay. He was like, I mean, all I really know is his last name.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him.
Hadn't seen him. And it's going to be kind of one of those scenarios, I feel like, where he tests the waters again of what he can say in public, that he is using this microphone as a way to get to his player. Like, if you don't want to sit down and listen to me, fine, I'll tell everybody here, and we'll put it out in the public. Which I guess it worked with mixed results with Kay last year. It got him to buy in a little bit.
I think Kelly is psychologically, he's masterful. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that background of what we learned when he was hired, you know, passing the CIA exam and going through that type of training, from mental exercises and some of the preparation that he does and some of the things that he's out in front of. I think he understands that, look, you got to coach everybody differently. You know, some people can handle being exposed in the public, being talked about into the public. Some people need to learn a lesson by being talked about in public. I think that's what Kayshon was. I think Kayshon was, hey, we've tried to get through to him, and he's just not getting it. So maybe we just need to put it out in the public and see if, you know, social media can get to him. Because one thing that's going to happen is people are going to start blowing up. You think Denver Harris's DMs have been filled up over the last 48 hours? You think, I mean, there's crazy people from all over the state saying, what the hell are you doing?
I mean, if you check the message boards, they're good as kicked him off the team. Everybody that's, you know, the casuals that would love to, they just want to speculate and comment. They go from he's not in the team picture to kick him off the team.
And I think that's where they are on Harris. I think they've tried a lot of things behind the scenes to motivate him. They've put him with the third team. They've not named him a starter. They did that purposely when he showed up in spring. It carried over into the summer. There's some things that have happened that you say, all right, I mean, like, let's see if you can't just kind of like coach this thing out of him.
The light bulb going to go on,
right? Like, I mean, at some point you got to turn the corner, right? And it just it hasn't happened either at the speed of what they've wanted it to happen, or, you know, very fastly he's running out of room to make it happen here. And I think that's what, you know, Kelly will address immediately this morning, or today when he meets with the press. I expect that. I don't know if that's going to happen. I just am looking at Brian Kelly's track record, and Seville Jr. says Brian Kelly is not a hold-your-hand type of guy. I don't strike him as a hold-your-hand type of guy, but I do strike him as a second-chance type of guy. And this is Denver Harris's second chance for all intents and purposes, maybe. Right?
Yeah. And you saw what he did with Trey Bradford.
Exactly.
John Emery.
And the way that he explained the Bradford situation, I thought gave you a lot of insight on to what type of coach and personality he is. He said, look, every man deserves a second chance. But they told Bradford on that second chance, we're not helping you. We're not writing you letters of recommendation. We're not going to see anybody in the administration. We're not helping you with grades. We're not doing anything. If you want to get back on the team, it's open, but you got to prove it. And, you know, I thought his detail of that account gave you insight on really kind of how and who he is, how he operates as a coach. Like, yeah, man, I mean, look, you can have an opportunity, but as soon as you mess up or as soon as you don't do what you're supposed to do, the opportunity's gone. And I think that was – I know for a fact that was well explained to Denver Harris when he was –
Courted.
When he was being recruited. And it's been reiterated since him signing and being in Baton Rouge. We'll see.
And there's a world where Brian Kelly goes, why are we talking about a third-string cornerback this much? Where he really kind of puts the knife and twists, because that's, I don't know if Denver Harris wants the attention or he doesn't want to give it to him, but I think it will be, just because of the way this all played out very publicly, where you have the reports of him being late to a team meal. Now it's spilled over to the fight that wasn't a big deal last week, but now things are coming out that it spilled into the locker room with Sonny Shipp, and I'd imagine that probably has something to do with it, but it feels like that was a long time ago to be punished, and how little it was talked about. Whenever Brian Kelly mentioned it, he kind of mentioned it in passing. Yeah. Whenever he got to the podium after the fight happened, because I think it happened on Monday or Tuesday, and he spoke on Wednesday, and it was at the end of this presser where he kind of was just like, kind of like boys will be boys type deal. He was like, I don't even really. He's like, I've already forgotten about it. Yeah. He's like, with the personalities that I have to manage and the hats I have to wear as the head coach, he's like, that's old news. So that's why I think it's a little weird that they're going back to that fight as why he'd be suspended from a team photo, because he's the only one that was fighting. And
then missing practice the day after the fight.
Right.
You know, I mean, if I think
if
it was the fight, you know, I mean.
He wouldn't have been the only one to.
He wouldn't have finished out the week practicing.
Right. And so we're going to retroactively punish you a week later and take you out the team photo? That's what doesn't add up to me.
Remember, we're brought to you daily by our friends over at Go Roof. They can help you out today with residential, commercial, or roofing repairs. If you work with Go Roof, you get a 2-year free workmanship guarantee with all new roof installations. Online at geauxroof.com. geauxroof.com. You get a beautiful roof every single time. Service area includes Baton Rouge, Hammond, New Orleans, Lafayette, Gonzales, Prairieville, Denham Springs, and all surrounding areas. So anywhere in South Louisiana. If you hear this and you're in South Louisiana and you need a new roof, or you might think you need a new roof, get in touch with our friends over at Go Roof. geauxroof.com. geauxroof.com, where you can count on the boys over at Go Roof for repair, installation, and maintenance. The phone number is simple. We've been telling you to plug this into your phone. You can just put it into your contacts list. You'll have it when you need it. You may not need it today. You may not need it immediately right now, but it's South Louisiana. We're approaching hurricane season. We're approaching storm season. Rather than trying to fish out your roofer when things go bad, be prepared. Have your roofer already dialed into your contacts so you can make that call immediately when you need the boys from Go Roof to jump up and give you that free inspection. geauxroof.com, or the phone number is very simple. Take this down, 225-927-8300, 225-927-8300. That is not exclusive to just Baton Rouge. They can help you out anywhere in South Louisiana. There's an ability to get a free quote online if you want to do that as well, where you can log on at geauxroof.com, and it's a free quote that's available to you there. You can also get a free and quick roof inspection today, as we said. If you want somebody to hop up on the roof today, they can help you. Residential, commercial, or roofing repair, Go Roof can help you today. Roofs up with our friends over at Go Roof. geauxroof.com, a beautiful roof every single time. We'll be back with Jacques Doucet next here on Jordy Culotta Show. As always, built by R&B. Market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge. Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068 or find Hydro Wash on Facebook.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on. Did you do it? Hold on. Did you do it?
Rosa.
Hold on.
Roof's up?
Roof's up!
Roof's up!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every shingle time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
All right, welcome back here, Jordy Culotta Show. As always, we are built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Shout out to Rhett and the crew over at RMB. And one of the contractors that Rhett works with, one of the independent contractors that Rhett works with, is Barker Brothers Plumbing. And welcome back on Barker Brothers Plumbing, our friends from across the river over there in Plaquemine. Jude Barker and his crew got a phenomenal crew. Been great supporters of ours and said they were going to get back during football season and now back aboard here. So really looking forward to telling you about our friends over at Barker Brothers Plumbing, commercial services, plumbing services, whether it's commercial or residential. Barker Bros can take care of you over in Plaquemine. We'll get you all of the information. We'll be flashing the logos. We'll be taking care of our boy Jude and the crew as they've taken care of us, for a long time. We appreciate them and love them over there in Plaquemine. So shout out to Barker Brothers Plumbing for being back. BBW.
BBP.
Yeah.
BBW.
That's right, man.
Yeah, we got to get the sweatshirts.
Yeah, so I get my sweatshirt sitting on my desk. It didn't go far. It didn't go far. All right, and speaking of going far, man, I was over at the new studio last night. I was telling Lloyd he's got to get over there this morning. It looks fantastic. I mean, our guy Lane Moran, who we found finally hit the lottery.
The jackpot.
Man, we had been drafting scrubs for about 2 years and finally had the number one pick and didn't blow it.
Tanked.
As Lane Moran has, if you need a podcasting studio, it's not even a podcasting studio. If you need a recording studio, he works in like the music industry is where we really found. He sets up concerts. He's a sound engineer. I mean, like when I say a sound engineer, if you like watch him work in the first 2 minutes, he walks into a room and like starts clapping. You know, you're like,
if you didn't know what he was doing, you'd be a little concerned.
Whoa, man.
You got some ticks.
Everything good?
Do this every day.
But it is it's been great. I mean, it's a great facility over at Click Here. It is ideal for what we are trying to do. The room is kind of in the middle of this old building, this big building right off the interstate, off of I-12, right across from Click Here, main campus, and it is fantastic. We should be live on Monday. I mean, I've got no problem saying that we should be live. I think Lloyd and Lane are going to get over there and test the equipment here over the next 24 hours, which should be kind of the next roadblock that we'll have to cross to go live. And once that happens, we'll be up and moving. Our artist, Todd Kepper, who we worked with on this project, did a phenomenal job of
I heard you were giving me shit for sharing that on social Monday.
So, it's a little quiet.
I mean, I didn't.
It's a little quiet. A little quiet.
The man posted it. I just reposted what he posted. I didn't leak any news.
Did Todd posted it?
Yes. How do you think I got it?
Well, I thought I sent it to the chat.
No, I would never leak our chat on Instagram, our dirty laundry.
Right? But it looks great, man. It looks great. Our new partners over at Click Here are fired up about it. My man Bo White is back. He was traveling last week, talking to a lot of automotives around the country, and man, he couldn't believe what he walked back into. So it was good to see his acceptance for it for sure. So all right, we're going to talk to Jacques here as we got away from our Wednesday in studio here over the last couple of weeks with football camp and everything cranking up, but looking forward to getting our friend back into the fold here for football season as we link up with JD here on this Wednesday morning. Jacques, how are you? Good morning. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Outstanding. I woke up to 77 degrees today, and it felt like paradise.
Yeah, I mean, I when I walked outside, I was like, where am I? Because I felt like when I went to bed last night, I was in the Sierra. But it's hopefully fall is here. Hopefully fall can make its way here. Jacques, let's start with Denver Harris. Everybody's talking about him, and he is, I'd imagine, going to be the centerpiece of what Brian Kelly speaks about today when he meets with the press. What do you make of this Denver Harris situation, and what are you expecting to hear from Kelly when he meets with the media today?
Well, I expect that to be one of the first questions that Coach Kelly gets today to clarify that. Certainly meeting with Matt House, LSU's defensive coordinator, and hearing Brian Kelly speak, I don't think the name Denver Harris has come up a whole lot, which tells you that he has not been much of a contributor. Running third team, when we go out to practice, I've seen a couple times where Harris is maybe running his mouth a little bit when he's being coached and whatnot. So I don't think LSU wants to get rid of him. Certainly they brought him aboard because they knew that perhaps he had a bit of a checkered past, but he has talent, and LSU's quarterback room is not deep. We're rooting for Zy Alexander, who comes from the Southeastern Lions in Hammond, America, and who was an FCS All-American and has been a very good player and is long, got long arms, and hopefully can do well. And Deuce Chestnut from Syracuse, who's getting adjusted to the heat, and some other guys out there. But, I'm looking forward to hearing what Coach Kelly's going to say. Obviously, Denver was not in the team photo the other day, and he wasn't in practice yesterday when we were allowed to watch. So looking forward to hearing what Coach Kelly has to say about that.
Jacques, without being so broad here, we have seen, again, extended time here in fall camp from LSU football. Just some thoughts from you, if you don't mind. Just kind of what has stood out to you in seeing LSU really crank up and now have 2 weeks on the field.
It just feels good, Jordy. It just feels like the operation is in a much better place than it was, say, last August. I think a full year of Brian Kelly and his staff injecting LSU with organization and the right strength and conditioning and just great coaching. I just enjoy going out to practice and watching Brian Kelly walk around and have 5-minute conversations with different players and talking to them and coaching them. I can't hear what they're saying, obviously, but it's just Jaden Daniels just looks like a good quarterback, perhaps a great quarterback. Nussmeier, man, he makes some throws out there sometimes that really get the oohs and ahs going, where he fits it in these tight windows, and you hear that football hit a wide receiver with that big thump and that velocity. And We know Jaden is a very good player, an electric player in the running game as well. And I mean, 8 scholarship running backs, Jordy. You can't point to any one of those guys and say, okay, that guy's a bum. He's not going to play. And I heard you talking about Trey Bradford last week. I asked Coach Kelly about Trey Bradford. I did a conversation we're 18 days from LSU kickoff. I did a conversation with one of the great 18s in LSU history, Benny Logan, who was on the staff for a short period of time when Trey Bradford was there. And he told me yesterday he's really rooting for Trey Bradford, thinks he's a great kid. Look, this 3 times on the team, left twice. He says he's not a bad kid. It's just some things haven't lined up for him. And he thinks he can really be a good player for LSU. So, other things you're looking around, I think our local kids at wide receiver that we covered on Sportsline Friday night, Brian Thomas Jr. and Chris Hilton Jr., you may only get about 5-10 words out of those guys. They're pretty quiet. They're not talkative, loud guys, but I think both of those guys, Brian Thomas has done plenty in his first 2 years, but I think both of those guys are poised for breakout seasons with LSU in the receiving game. And then you can throw in Shelton Sampson Jr., the true freshman from Catholic High. It's funny that all the local kids have junior. I guess the dads are really proud of their names, passing on to the kids. That's right. Good stuff. But and then you got a guy like Mason Taylor. Look, I wouldn't want to be seeing Mason Taylor run at me at full speed. I mean, he's put on some weight. I mean, he's got the neck and the shoulders, and we saw how good he was as a true freshman. So I think there's a lot of offensive toys for the quarterbacks, and I haven't really talked about the defense, but I'll stop talking because I've been rambling for about 10 minutes.
And you're driving, which is commendable, and we appreciate the effort. Are you all good? I mean, are we good here? Do we need to switch it over to phone, or you can handle this? Because it looks like you're rolling through it.
I'm all good. I mean, I'm sure I'll get a few nasty mails about how I was dangerous talking to you while I was driving, but I'm careful, being as careful as I can be. I'm out near Lutcher, so there's hardly any cars on the road. So
that's right. Just watch for wildlife. Jacques, you mentioned Nussmeier. You had a chance. The press had a chance to talk to Nussmeier yesterday. How refreshing! I said to start off the show, just a student athlete in these day and times that has really been patient in his process. And like you just alluded to, and Lloyd and I were talking about it, I believe, off the air, he's so good. I mean, like, he's got to be thinking when he goes home, like, man, I could be playing in a lot of spots right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of LSU fans think that too, especially in today's climate of college football where guys just bounce around left and right and oftentimes leave for situations that aren't any better than where they're at. I mean, look, regardless of what happens this year with Garrett Nussmeier, he could easily run this show in 2024 and 2025 as well if he wants to. Now, maybe in 2024 he has a huge year and he goes pro. I don't know, but certainly we have seen in a 14-game schedule, for example, last year, you need 2 quarterbacks. A guy perhaps is going to get dinged up at one point. Now, and Jaden, look, the thing with Jaden is, okay, 17 touchdown passes last year in 14 games. It's not enough. They need to get that up. He needs to get it into the high 20s. Just makes you realize how sensational and once-in-a-lifetime Joe Burrow was to have 60 touchdown passes in 2015. But, Jaden ran for 11 as well. He was a leading rusher. So, I think he needs to throw more interceptions, as ridiculous as that sounds. And he needs to push the ball down the field. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 instead of 2nd and 10 if he checks it down. And I think Jaden's really confident in the short passing game. But there's no doubt when you go out there that Nussmeier has thrown the deep passes more down the field than Jaden and fit the ball into tight windows more. But Jaden is, without a doubt, the starter. He was voted the team MVP by his peers. But I think that LSU fans perhaps should never feel better about a quarterback situation entering a year than right now. Even with Burrow in 2019, I think your backup, no offense to what was going on then, but I think your backup is much better than it was in 19. And so you've got 2 really talented quarterbacks going into the year, and that's exciting.
Yeah. Jacques with us after another successful summer of Red Rock and Blue. Remember, you can always read about what's happening with Red Rock and Blue full year all year round at redrockandblue.com. All right, JD, I'm gonna get you off the road here with this one. Saints with them last week. You got your first look at some offseason signings. You got your first look at Derek Carr under center for the Saints. What was your takeaway from New Orleans in the Dome last week? JD? All right, let's jump out of here. Good stuff from JD. I think we're having a little bit. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, Jordy, I didn't watch a ton of it. I wanted him drive. It's that was enough for me to see. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry, we're on a bad delay. Bad delay. Sorry. Oh, he's just hearing that part. He's just hearing that part.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yes.
Well, the Camaro looked fresh. Derek Carr distributed the ball to him. Was good. Hey, just who's me? We good now?
Yep, we're good, buddy. Hey, safe travels. Thank you for this morning. We want to get back to the studio when you get back here, and we will see you soon.
Final thing, Vertical Horizon this Saturday at the Varsity. We got about 300 tickets left. Please sell those final 300. Going to be a packed house. Everything you want, everything in the concert. See you later.
RedRockandBlue.com. There he is.
Thanks, JD.
Jock.
Power through.
Yes, he did. A true professional, man. A true professional.
Yeah, this guy.
Thank you to JD, man. That was great. Thanks for him to stop by this
We should have
morning.
known.
Doing the driving and the video call. That was good stuff. One of the things that he talked about, and we're going to get into it because Garrett Nussmeier was speaking to the media yesterday, was Nussmeier and hearing for him for the first time in fall camp, which that was great to hear from Nuss, and want to give you our thoughts. But remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Hughes Mechanical Contractor. It is a cool morning, but it is hot season right now. It's still summer out there, and the ACs are having a tough time keeping up. If yours needs some service, get in touch with our friends over at Hughes Mechanical Contractors. Travis Hughes and his team are standing by this morning if you want to call them. 225-658-2147, 225-658-2147. I've been encouraging you to save into your contacts list, your Go Roofing contact. Do the same for Hughes Mechanical Contractors, residential and commercial HVAC services. They also have services and maintenance on your AC, which right now, look, it's service season with your air condition over at Hughes Mechanical, HughesMechanical.net. If it's having a tough time keeping up and you need that service tech to come out and see what's going on with yours, stop in and see our friends over at Hughes Mechanical. HughesMechanical.net is where you can find them, and you can call them at 225-658-2147, 225-658-2147. They give quick estimates. They're also a Daikin-trusted dealer over at Hughes Mechanical. Great warranty with the Daikin products that you can learn about. All of this is online, HughesMechanical.net. Another one of our supporters here that serves the entire South Louisiana listener base. If you are anywhere in South Louisiana, it doesn't matter if you're down in New Orleans, if you're over in Lafayette, if you're in Baton Rouge, or anywhere in between and below us, it is in the service area for Hughes Mechanical. So get in touch with them today. 225-658-2147 is the phone number. Online, HughesMechanical.net is where you can find them online. All right, Garrett Nussmeier was speaking with the press yesterday. It was good to hear from Nuss, as Nuss is going into his third season out of high school. Usually when you look at the quarterback position, there is a timeline that is in place for a lot of these guys that they say if they're not at this point by this certain date, then they're looking to make a move. I think that's what happened with Walker Howard. I think Walker Howard projected down the line and said, where am I going to be in my second and third year in college? And in his second season, he was going to be in a quarterback room that was probably the most talented in the country, with or without him. Like, think about it. I still think that LSU's quarterback room is head and shoulders above 75 to 80% of college football, with or without Howard. Throw Howard into that room, and the number moves 5-6%. Not much. Right? I mean, I still think he's a great talent, but as talented as it is right now with Daniels and Nussmeier, I mean, that's as good as any room in the country. And I think from a projection standpoint, you've got guys that are looking and saying, where am I going to be my second and third year out of high school when I'm really mature, developed, understand the system? If everything stays in place, your coaches stay, not a lot of transfers, everything kind of stays intact like it has for LSU over the last 2 years, then you're in a stable situation. And when you look at Nussmeier, he was the prime example, in my opinion, of someone who fit the transfer model mode. Mm-hmm. Right? Like when you looked at Walker Howard was so surprising to see transfer when it first happened, because he felt like his timeline was a little further away from the field than a guy like Nussmeier's was, especially for Nuss coming off that SEC title game, where it looked like he was on a job interview, where it looked like he had the mentality that day that I'm just going to sling it. And he did. And since then, he has gotten bigger and stronger. He's more mature, and he decided to come back to LSU. And when he made that decision, that stabilized LSU's room, in my opinion, as a championship contender. It also set themselves up for this recruiting line that they're on to keep the development of the position on time and on the calendar. Right? It was what LSU was plagued by for a decade, really. I mean, the program was so desperate for a quarterback that it would peel red shirts off of players that had no business even being recruited by LSU. And I don't want to get into names, but we all watched LSU over the last 12 years. We all know who kind of fit the mold and who didn't. But Nussmeier is a championship-level third-year player quarterback in college football. Like, you can look at his skill set, look at his maturation, look at where he is, and say, you can win with that. And there's a lot of teams in the country, and I'm talking about top 10 teams, that need a player like him, just to validate that they're that top 10 team. I know Alabama's loaded. I know that they are dripping with talent all over the field. To me, they feel like LSU in 2015, 2014, 2017, 2012. Like, we can play this game all day, right? Where you're just like, I mean, they got pro after pro after pro after pro at every position that matters. They just ain't got a quarterback. And not only do they not have a quarterback, they don't have one in sight. They don't have one in sight. Maybe Alabama does. I don't know the Alabama quarterback situation well enough to know whether or not they really do have that guy that you're just kind of waiting on Ty Simpson to grab it. But the fact that they're at this part in fall camp and they still hadn't said they got the dude makes me think that they're still kind of desperate over there in Tuscaloosa on the practice field thinking, man, we're loaded, but we just don't have a quarterback. And, I'll sacrifice a DB or a defensive lineman every year if you tell me your quarterback is stable. Like, I'll give back a 4 or 5 star somewhere if you just promise me that every single year you can be competent at the quarterback position. And the only way to do that is kind of set it up in recruiting, where you're getting guys to understand, hey, when you come in, Ricky Collins, we're really not expecting you to take a meaningful snap for another 2 years. And even when you take that meaningful snap 2 years later, if the calendar plays out like it's planned to, that'll be like in the second half of a blowout. It'll be in a situation where it's safe because the quarterback pecking order in line is put in place where you've got guys that you can develop for a year or two, get them ready for the league, and the next guy that's up's already been in the program for 2 years. So when Garrett Nussmeier gets his time, hell, he's 22 years old, 21 years old, been on college campus for 3 years, 4 years, next year. So for him to make that decision, first off, is an outlying situation in college football. I don't know how many times this will happen. It will happen time to time where a guy comes in, recruited out of high school, somebody transfers in, takes the starting job for 2 years, and he stays patient enough as a high-end recruit and a guy that has talent and expectation to play sticks around. At quarterback, where there's only one. You got a couple of defensive tackles. You got 2 defensive ends. You got 3 linebackers. You got 4 defensive backs. You got 3 wide receivers.
8 running backs.
You got 8 running backs. You got 1 quarterback that all these dudes know they can play. And for him to sit back, be patient, and wait his turn is just, it's a very outlying situation in 2023's edition of college football. Where tomorrow he could be the starter at a Power 5 school. And a big-time school.
You could make the argument he could be a starter at probably the number 1 team in the country. And what's Alabama ranked?
4.
4. You could say that he could start for 2 of the top 4 teams in the country. Hell, 3. You could put LSU into that mix. He could be the starter. You just have Jane Daniels in front of him. But you don't think Georgia would take Garrett Nussmeier?
I mean, Alabama tried.
Alabama tried, and that's the funniest thing about Nussmeier. Talk about a star turn. Just for the LSU fan base, if he would have, I guess, spurned the LSU colors and gone to Alabama, then he becomes public enemy number 1. Instead, he stays at LSU, and then the explanation he gives as to why he stays, he could not have endeared himself to the fan base much more with his decision.
Here is Nussmeier yesterday speaking with the press on why he decided to stay at LSU.
Continuing to get better, never accepting of what I am, and I'm always in competition with what I have the potential to be, not with what I am now. And I think that's kind of the mindset that I've taken. I think, like you said, coming back, I don't think it was that hard of a decision for me. This is where I want to be. My roots are in this state. This is my home, and it means something to me to represent LSU, to represent this state and these fans, and also, with my teammates and coaches. I've learned to build relationships with the new staff, and I have a lot of love for them, and also with my teammates. I wanted to finish what we started.
Speaking of the new staff, there was one coach in particular that played a key role in Nussmeier not only staying but his development up to this point.
One of the first conversations me and Coach Sloan had, he told me that he believed that he was the best coach in the country to coach me. And I think that could be true, because we're very similar. I get very emotional at times, and he's the same way. So he's quick to get on to me, but I love it. I'm used to it, and that's the way I want it to be. I don't want to be coached to be average. I want to be coached to be the best that I can be. So I have a lot of love for Coach Sloan and the way that he coaches me, and so it's been fun.
Joe Sloan is someone I know that we've talked a little bit about here in recruiting, and we've talked a ton about him in recruiting. And deserves a ton of all the attention that he's getting there in that part of the game. His on-the-field development is something that we will begin to talk about next, right, where it's easy for us all to look at the offensive situation and yell about Brian Kelly and Mike Denbrock and guys that have really good experience in play calling and developing quarterbacks and have been there. Joe Sloan is someone that is getting a lot of attention from people around the country. There's somebody that LSU is going to have to play defense with because people are starting to recognize just how big of a talent he is. He is a full encompassing coach. And when I say that, he can coach on the field. He can recruit in the off season. He's a masterful recruiter. and he's fantastic in the classroom as far as breaking it down. I mean, you just heard Nussmeier talk about it, about the way that Joe Sloan coaches him, and that he coaches him hard, and that he expects and has high expectations that he puts on Nussmeier. I mean, that's a competitor in Nussmeier that expects to be a pro, and he trusts the way that Sloan is coaching him up. Joe Sloan is somebody that has been a weapon for LSU behind the scenes, both in recruiting, both from a therapeutic standpoint and talking to his guys and really consulting the quarterback room and being a voice of reason and leadership inside of that room for that talented spot, and just has been relentless in keeping LSU relevant in discussions of future players. I mean, it feels like Bryce Underwood is trending towards LSU today. Now, there's a ton of time left before the number one player in the 2025 cycle announces where he's going. But right now, today, I think if you were asking Shea, Billy, Spiegelman, guys like that we trust in covering recruiting, where's Underwood leaning today, August 16th, 2023, LSU would be the trending school right now. And if you followed up with, well, how is that happening? Why is that happening? It wouldn't take long before you hear Joe Sloan's name. I mean, it's just he's doing. You hear a guy who's on campus on how much Joe Sloan means to him. You talk to a guy like Bryce Underwood, who's the number one player in the country next cycle, 2 cycles. Who's the most important coach on the staff at LSU behind Brian Kelly? I'd imagine that Underwood would go directly to Joe Sloan. I don't know that for a fact, but it wouldn't take long for him to get there. So Joe Sloan is somebody, I think this offseason you'll probably either see a bunch of money thrown at from LSU standpoint to protect him as the quarterback's coach, or you may see a change in role just to keep him.
That's what I was thinking.
Aboard.
I think you might see
or an understanding of
some sort of title change and raise.
Passing game coordinator.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you put a coordinator title on somebody so you can give them a pay. But inside of the room, you know, I mean, the titles don't speak. You think you don't think that Frank Wilson was running recruiting discussions last year? He wasn't the recruiting coordinator. Who do you think everybody was looking at when it got time to say, all right, we really got to get this guy? Frank, help us out.
Do the thing.
Do your deal. Same thing when it comes to the quarterback's coach. He's not a coordinator. Didn't have the title. If you were just a fly on the wall, you would think, who's the kid? Who's the kid with all the knowledge? Feels like a coordinator. Won't be long. Here is Garrett Nussmeier talking about Jaden Daniels and working alongside Daniels going into his senior season. Daniels' senior season.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job leading, and we all push each other. There's no time to slip up. We're always competing. We're always pushing each other to be the best that we can be, and I think it's been good. There's a good dynamic in the room. Ricky's done a great job since he's got here. He's learning, he's growing, and he's doing really well.
This is got weapons everywhere. I mean, we've talked about it. We've previewed it. We've detailed it. We've talked about the names. We've talked about the depth. We've talked about the embarrassing riches of talent that they have on that side of the ball. Here's Nussmeier talking about working with that group every day.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things Coach Denbrock has stressed this offseason is not about trying to change who we are. It's about, perfecting who we are. And it's the little things, it's the little details, and continuing to get those right. And when you're perfect with little details, it starts to open up more things. And, I think that's where we will improve as an offense is, focusing on the details and correcting the mistakes that we made last year and continuing to get better.
Here is Nussmeier talking about the skill level of the playmakers on that unit.
He absolutely gushes when he talks about the playmakers on the offensive end. He wants to play so bad.
Got to be fun to be a quarterback.
Oh yeah,
it's very relieving as a quarterback when you're out there and if something goes bad and you got to put it up to a one-on-one situation. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's 100 to none. It's not a 50-50. So with the guys that we've got, in the tight end room, in the receiver room, and even in the running back room, we got a lot of dudes. We got a lot of athletes, and they can all make plays. So it's exciting. literally from top to bottom in each room, they're all extremely talented. And for us, for me and Jayden, that's a complete ease of relief.
The offensive line is a story for LSU this season, a positive story going into the year of the frontline talent and the depth that Brad Davis has been able to accumulate in just a couple of years.
Just growing and learning, getting experience, especially, we had Will and Emery were 2 freshmen, and, now they look like vets, just the way that they go about their business, the way that they act every single day, the way that they lead out on the practice field. That speaks for the other guys too, the interior guys, Dellinger and Miles Frazier and Charles, those guys are all returning. And, they've stepped up big as a unit. You can see that they definitely have a force of toughness, within our offense and bring us more of a tough identity. And it's awesome to see, the way that they've all stepped up and, brought everybody with them.
Nussmeier has developed over the last 2 years. He's talked about his development under this current coaching staff.
I think, the biggest thing that I've improved on under this staff is just improving my emotional awareness, working through things that, I didn't really know how to work through before, trying to stay even kill, not too high, not too low. I'm very passionate, and it can come out at times, and sometimes it can hurt me, and sometimes it helps me. And trying to use that and push that into a way that helps me only and eliminate the emotions that, start to hurt me. I think one of the other big things is I've learned how to just kind of focus and stay locked in throughout, each rep, each play, each drive. And, I think it's helped me a lot.
Last year he was dubbed a gunslinger. He didn't like that, did Nussmeier. Here he is talking about his arm talent really becoming a more developed quarterback.
Obviously, I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to increase my arm strength. But to be honest, I don't really feel any limitations on throws. I feel the confidence to be able to make whatever throw I need to make out on the field. And, it's been big for me to learn how to control that aggression. And, I used to be extremely, extremely aggressive, and I would put the ball in danger and things that hurt me. Like I talked about emotionally, I would get too high and think that I could make every play in the world and try to force it instead of just, going through my reads, doing what I'm supposed to do and allowing those plays to come to me. And then that's when I should be able to make them. So I wouldn't say I feel like I have a limit, of when I feel like I can't. I feel like I always have the confidence and the trust in my teammates to be able to, do whatever I need to do whenever I need to do it.
Their off-season of Manning Passing Academy appearance for Nussmeier. Here he is talking about his time in Thibodeau.
Yeah, it was good, being around that, and it was awesome to get to, coach a quarterback drill with Eli Manning. I want to be a coach one day too. I'm a coach's kid. I've always been around ball. Football is all I know. Football is all I love to do. So, getting to talk to a couple greats like that, and just learn from them and listen to the different things they say, listen to the different stories they have to tell. It's pretty cool, and I hope every quarterback gets to experience that at some point.
Nussmeier, as he was meeting with the press yesterday, he was talking about this team and what they accomplished, what they could accomplish going into the season.
The sky's the limit for us this year. If we handle things the right way, if we do things the right way. Our defense is ridiculous. There's so many athletes, so many dogs on that defense. It's scary, and it makes us better as an offense. When we go against them, it's hard. It's not easy in practice. And so, when we go play on Saturdays, it's going to make the game easier than it is, at practice. And so, like I said, the sky is definitely, the limit. There is no limit on what we could accomplish this year as long as we handle things the right way and take things the right way and handle it week by week and focus on what we need to focus on. And, I'm really excited.
Garrett Nussmeier yesterday speaking with the press for the first time in fall camp. Good to hear from LSU's quarterback as Tigers are really sitting in a good spot going into the season at that position. Not only do you have Nussmeier and you've got Jayden Daniels, a starter, you've got a true freshman quarterback in Ricky Collins that, look, at times it's been tough for him in the transition, but all in all have heard some really, really positive things about the way that Collins has made that jump from high school into his first year at playing at the next level. Obviously, being in spring really helped him out. His arm talent, you can't deny it. You go out there and you see him whip a football, and, it just jumps out of his hand. Obviously, some of the things that he's looking at, he's never seen before with just, the complexity of the defense and some of the athletes that, look, Harold Perkins ain't playing 5A football in Louisiana last year. They got dogs. in Louisiana high school football. But not a college-readied linebacker like Perkins who's flying off the edge and, giving you things that you just haven't seen before. I mean, it's just taking a little bit of time. But that's what we talked about in the development of the quarterback position. There's no reason that Ricky Collins should have any expectation to play, both from the program standpoint and really, I know that Rick's a competitor and you want him to believe that it's his time and he's ready to play, but he's not. He's not. Not when you're in a room with a guy that's a senior, a guy that's been in college football for 3 years compared to a guy that's been in college for 6 months. I mean, it's just not. It's not ideal to look at that and say he's ready. For so long, LSU was working on that timeline where you would get a kid like Collins, who's a 4- and 5-star type player at quarterback, and he was at Woodlawn, playing in November, and just the next August, he would be looked at LSU as somebody that had to save the program, where it was so unfair to the player, to the development of the position, to the development both of the confidence and the physical talent, that it never could catch up. But Jarrett Lee looked like he did when he was a senior as a freshman. Yeah, he did. Because he was so scarred from playing as an 18-year-old and being on a stage that he had no business playing, that by the time he was 22, 23, there was just some lasting effects of it. I mean, for the most part, he had beat it, but when things kind of look similar to what they did when he was 18, when he went to Tuscaloosa and there's pros flying around on defense, he just started throwing the ball up. And, I mean, it was just it was a jade of the past. It was something that happened that just scarred him so deeply that
he was broken.
It messed him. It screwed his whole development up. I mean, listen to Garrett Nussmeier speak. He sounds as confident today as he did when he was coming out of 5A Texas football as a big-time prospect. He knows he can play. He knows he's got the arm strength. He knows he's got the guys around him. He also still has his confidence intact that when he goes out there, he can play like that mentally. That's such a big deal. I mean, like it's such a huge part of the potion that it's easy to lose focus. You don't see it. You just see him in the helmet and the shoulder pads on Saturday night, and you expect everybody to make a play. But in the mental part of it, in that confidence building part of, the coach player development in the program, that's where LSU has caught up from a quarterback standpoint, that there's no pressure immediately on these guys. It's got to be very relieving and refreshing, even though Ricky Collins probably would never admit it, to just say, I'm walking in the building and I know that I've got so much to learn before I play. And I'm ready to do that, rather than saying, hey, man, shoot that fire hose at my face and let me just try to take everything I can in. You're drinking out of a water, you're drinking out of a fire hose and just hoping you can retain as much as you can for Saturdays is where LSU was. And then you would get there and your mind just goes blank because you got 100,000 barking down at you. You look at the sideline, you got Nick Saban scheming defenses for you, and then you look across the line of scrimmage and you got pros coming after you. I don't remember where I'm supposed to check the ball down to on this. I'm just going to throw it up. But now, man, they're on this development plan and calendar. I mean, if it all works out for Ricky Collins, his first snap that he takes it's a year and a half away. And again, when he takes it, it's in mop-up duty. It's in a blowout where Nussmeier and the offense have put together a career day. And then if Nussmeier has a big enough year where he goes pro, well then, Rick, you're up. 2 years into being in college. How much more comfortable are you now than where you were 2 years ago? Leaps and bounds, right? What if Nussmeier decides to come back for a third year? Well, then you're going to have to re-recruit Rick. You're going to have to re-recruit Colin Hurley. You're going to have to re-recruit Bryce Underwood. And you're going to have to tell everybody, just stay patient. See how it worked out for Nussmeier? He might be a Heisman candidate by that point. Meanwhile, you've got Ricky knowing that he can run the offense. You've got Colin Hurley believing he can do it. And you got Bryce Underwood coming in as the number 1 quarterback in the country. That is a great problem to have, and that's where LSU is trending. I mean, like, pinch me. Throw water, wake me up. I mean, that's just, it's not what it's been, man. So, it's awesome to see where LSU's quarterback room is. It's great to hear from Nussmeier and hear his mindset going in a part of fall camp, his patience, why he wanted to come back, the opportunity that he sees.
That's the other thing.
Got to.
That's the, I think the bigger sell of any of this is, first of all, like I said, Louisiana guy loves LSU, which is great. And then you have we all saw you're wearing the hat. You got it done, a little deal just in case, a little sugar on top. But if there was a world where there wasn't NIL or any of this, and you're just Garrett Nussmeier coming back to LSU, you look around and you go, look at the talent that I'm going to be able to play with. That's only going to make him better. Because I think there's a world where Nussmeier starts next year, and you might get one and done with Nuss, and he's going to the NFL. And if that's the flavor you get, that means he had a phenomenal year, and LSU probably won 10 games again.
Absolutely.
You sign up for that.
Oh, LSU's in the playoffs.
Times. Yes.
I mean, he's a headliner. I mean, which he could be. I mean, if you're Nuss, like
35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
You're just looking at the roster next year, and you're saying, Gordon, cut the check. I'm in on the NIL deal, but it ain't gonna take much. Take
care of these guys.
I want to come back for Aaron Anderson. I want to come back for Will Campbell and Emory Jones in year 3. I want to be Harold Perkins' teammate in his junior season. I want to see what Caleb Jackson looks like a year into college football.
You sprinkle a little Caden Durham.
Or Shelton Sampson. Or Jalen Brown. Or Kyle Parker.
Brian Thomas.
It's just like, you get to play with all these guys? Kamorian Pimpton. Mac Markway. Jackson McGowan, Mason Taylor, year 3. Lance Hurd, year 2. It's embarrassing how talented they are right now at skill position. And if you're a quarterback, if you're a guy that, your job is distribute to the is to distribute the ball to these guys, that's it? And you're dropping back behind an offensive line that's got 2 bona fide first-round picks. Maybe 3.
Yeah.
Where you going?
New York?
Where are you headed? If you're not telling me you're going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, what are we talking about? So, it's a great problem. It's a great spot. It's where I talk about it so much because LSU's just never been here.
Yeah.
They've never been here. I remember looking at the Jamarcus Russell, Matt Flynn, Ryan Perrilloux room thinking, this will never happen again. You got Les Miles running the ball into the ground. How the hell are you going to recruit a quarterback with this? He just falls ass backwards into Zach Mettenberger. And the next guy you got is Burrow a decade later. It's just not been a spot that LSU has had the luxury of celebrating ever. Think how much we still talk about Tommy Hodson around Baton Rouge. He played in the mid-'80s.
Slidell Slinger.
Before Burrow, he was... people were yearning for the Hodson days. Now finally they're on a cycle where, look, you got to keep them in the boat. Right, you're going to lose 1 a year, I would project, if you're on this calendar. Where you've got 4 in the room, you're probably going to lose 1 per season, and that's okay. But if you've recruited at a high enough level, you can overcome losing Walker Howard. How detrimental would Walker Howard transferring 6 years ago been?
Oh, that would have been the Zach Lee scenario.
Oh my God!
When he signed to play Major League Baseball, and you're supposed to play quarterback at LSU. And then you look around and you're like, wait, Hayden Reddick doesn't commit to LSU. And then that's what it was. It was a bunch of hoping and waiting on signing day to just get somebody in the boat. That's where LSU was, where you had to almost You looked at who we were trying to recruit that was a 4-star, 5-star, whatever. You would try to go get one, but also in the back of your head, you knew he had to play as a freshman. That's what was going to fix it.
I mean,
it was mind-numbing.
Unreal. I mean, the amount of players that you wasted with no quarterback.
That's where LSU, I know they've
I mean, that's what I think of Alabama this year.
Yeah.
When I look at Alabama, like, I don't know them like I knew those LSU teams but it feels like that. It feels like you're like, man, they're loaded. I mean, like, look at their roster.
Well, if anybody can know it, it's us.
It's got to be. I don't think that there's any other comparison that you can make to a team that has pros everywhere that just doesn't have a quarterback. I mean, that was LSU for a decade. I mean, when Jarvis, Odell, and those guys were coming out, I mean, it was like people were like, how are they getting these guys? I mean, they had the 1 year with Mettenberger, but I mean, think they were here for 3 years. I mean, Odell was making plays on the 11 team. And I mean, for 2 of the 3 years he was here, he didn't have a quarterback. Jarvis Landry they couldn't find him until his junior year. It just it's now you've got guys like Shelton Sampson running with the 2 deep as a freshman on a wide receiver unit that's got 4 pros on it.
And somebody can get him the football.
You know, I mean, it's just it's just a different day, you know, and that's why, you know, you celebrate a guy like Garrett Nussmeier who decides to come back and then has the head, I mean, like the head strength this kid's got. I mean, to be that wise and to be that, you know, amount of, you know, to have that amount of wisdom and savvy, yeah, to you as a youngster, that you don't get blinded by playing time. I mean, you know, he drives home thinking, I'm the guy. You know, when he's watching film, he's thinking, I can win a championship here with this team. He's not necessarily looking at Jaden and saying, you know,
there's a reason I'm not playing.
Right. I mean, he's a competitor. He's thinking like, I mean, listen to what he says. Replaying the number 1 bite. I mean, he knows. He knows he can, or maybe not number 1. It was number 3. Of, you know, just playing alongside Daniels. He gives Daniels his respect, but in the same tone, he's also like, look, I'm going out there every day thinking I'm a player.
Job, leading, and you know, we all push each other. You know, there's no time to slip up. You know, we're always competing. We're always pushing each other to be the best that we can be, and you know, I think it's been good. There's a good dynamic in the room. You know, Ricky's done a great job since he's got here. You know, he's learning, he's growing, and he's doing really well.
Like, I don't think he's speaking about. I don't think he's speaking to Daniels about what he's doing to him. I think he's talking to Daniels about what Nussmeier's doing for Jaden. Like, he's saying, like, we're constantly on each other. There's no time for slip up. Like, he's saying, like, I'm on his ass.
Mm-hmm.
If he slips one day, I'm right there. And, like, to me, he's not saying anything that's controversial. He's not saying anything that's going to go. He's just telling you, I'm a competitor. And I know I got to be patient, and I know I got to pay my time. I know the deal. But don't think if you turned and said, hey, Nuss, you drive the car, him saying, okay, I'm going to give you the keys back. Like, he thinks, like, you give me the keys, you may not get it back. And that gives me goosebumps. Like, really. I mean, I've got goosebumps right now thinking about that. That LSU is in that position from a quarterback standpoint. That they got 2 pros in the room that want the best out of each other by competition. It doesn't get any better than that. It does not get any better than that. If you're following a team, if you're rooting for a team, if you're pulling for somebody, if you've got 2 competitors that are locked in for the best of the team that want the job and no threat to leave, Nussmeier's telling you, if I don't get the job, I'm hanging around and I'm going to be the best teammate and best number 2 quarterback in the country. That's how you win championships. That's how your team is in line to be at the end of the season with an opportunity to play for a championship. You got guys buying in at every level. And it's just more of it's more of an example of Brian Kelly and his brilliance, really. And I mean, I kind of, don't want to turn it all into a love fest on Kelly, but it's just, it's so overwhelming to see the drastic change of not only the way that the program operates every day, but by the way that the backups speak to the media. I mean, really, I mean, that is such a small superlative in the grand scheme of running a, multi-million-dollar corporation, organization. But now the things that they have in line, that they pay attention to, that they make sure is taken care of. Just like today when Kelly goes and speaks to the media, I expect him to be forthright, honest, and transparent. Just like he's letting the media hang out and watch practice. They got nothing to hide. They got nothing to try and play coy over. This is who they are. This is how they operate, and this is what it's going to be. It's good stuff, man. It really is. I mean, it's all positive stuff for LSU football heading into a season where they're a top 5 team. They've got a ton of expectation, and it is
from the top down.
It just starts at the top. I mean, it just starts with the leader, and you can hear it permeating throughout the whole organization, throughout the entire organization.
And talking about that clip, when you see Nussmeier speak the way that he does about whether it be mentoring Ricky Collins or learning with Jaden Daniels, he's not talking as if he's a backup, first of all. And I think that's if we're going to keep piling on BK, I think that's a testament to him every time he speaks about the quarterback, he always manages to slide Garrett Nussmeier in there. It's not out of sight, out of mind. He knows that Jaden's the starter, and he mentions that on the front end, but he always says, hey, we got great competition there. Who do you think he's talking about? And if you're Brian Kelly, what was his big talking point before this year happened? Obviously, it felt like things got accelerated just because LSU was on this year 2 kick. But Brian Kelly's been talking about year 3. And that's where you talk about, you laid out all those freshman wide receivers, all those skill players, your offensive line commit. That's the year he has circled for, holy, we might be a monster.
Yeah.
Because you have your offensive line returning, the studs you're going to have on the outside, and he obviously trusts Nuss implicitly to be. There's not going to be any drop off at the quarterback position.
I get the feeling. I mean, really, that he loves Nuss.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I get the feeling he likes Denver Harris. I really do. I mean,
everybody has that one guy.
I mean, I really get the feeling like he's like, come on, Denver, like, come on, man. I mean, what is the deal?
I'm also not kidding.
Yeah. I mean, no. I don't. By no means do I think that he'll let his like for the guy cloud his compromise for the program. But I mean, he still has a personal pull for the guy. You're like, I'm pulling for you.
I brought you. That's what I'm saying. I think he likes him personally. Yeah. But he's like,
the team meal starts at 3.
You know this,
not 3:02. And if it's 3:02, you're late. You're out. I wish you'd have been here at 2:58. I mean, but I can't go pick you up and drive you here. So, I mean, it's like, I'm giving, here's the playbook.
Yeah, you know what's expected. And that's where we talked a little bit about this and I don't think it's to the length that Tyrann Mathieu was, where he felt like you had to keep an eye on him 24/7. That's the story you tell of Justin Vincent. He leaves one day, and that's when Tyrann gets in trouble. Mm-hmm. But I would expect LSU, if whatever announcement comes out today, I don't think he's going to get kicked off the team today. But I would expect that whatever is happening going forward, I think that you kind of see that somebody's going to be assigned to the Denver Harris role.
Yeah.
Or of like, look, all right, if you can't make it a team meal at 3 o'clock, look, I'll go pick him up at 2:45. I'll get him there. Like, you have somebody on staff that can do that for you. And you're not necessarily even playing favorites. You're just doing something that
helps the team.
And it's not something you wouldn't do for anybody else either. You just seem to have one guy that's a click behind of what is expected of him.
Come on, Denver.
Just get it together.
Come on,
dude. Don't do this to yourself.
Come on, man.
And I think that's a lot of what the conversation is. I don't think he's coming down on him.
No, he's not.
It's a peer-to-peer. Like, come on, bruh. Do we have to do this?
I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but you know who I wish could handle this situation? Perk.
That's another thing is I wonder, team-wise, if there's somebody that has to.
I mean, if there's anybody, it would be number 4. It would be Harold Perkins. I mean, if anybody could
crack that code,
could crack him, I mean, it would be Perk. And from everything that I've ever been told about Harold Perkins is that they have no issues with him on that stuff.
He's all ball.
Like, he's always on time. He's always there. He's never somebody that you have to stay like. It's more like, hey man, don't get us a 15-yarder. You know what I mean? Like celebration and,
right.
and like as confident as you are, see if you can't keep that stuff bottled up as much as possible. But the football stuff, like there's no like, hey Harold, you should try this. They're like, hey, let him be the football player. Let's teach him like footwork and what his keys are. But as far as like the mentality of playing the game, he's on time and he's there every day, ready to learn and ready to get better. He knows who he is.
Exactly.
I mean, he knows, and that's what Denver needs to realize. Like, I believe, like when it's all said and done, if Denver was to buy in, if Denver was to get it, if Denver or once he accepts what it takes to be an LSU football player, I think that Denver Harris potentially could be a higher draft pick than a guy like Harold Perkins. Think about it. Think about the NFL.
About it.
Think about the NFL.
Yeah, I think he could.
I mean, Harold Perkins, when he gets to the combine, you're going to fall in love with his athleticism. But he's going to be a guy where you're like, I can't put him in the middle of an NFL football field as a linebacker. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of examples that you can look at and say, you can use him like this, and he's going to be fantastic. Denver Harris, if he checks all the boxes of being a program player, do your work, show up on time, make the meals, be at the pictures, do that stuff. When it comes to football, when you roll the ball out, you've got a top 10 corner. You've got a top 10 pick at cornerback. Think about the value of a cornerback in the NFL.
Right.
I mean, I'm watching the New York Jets, Hard Knocks. I mean, Sauce Gardner. I mean, like that. He's the franchise. He's the franchise, right? I mean, like, do I think that Harold Perkins could be a first rounder? Absolutely. Do I think that Harold Perkins could be an impact guy in the NFL? Absolutely. Do I know that cornerback is a position that all 32 teams are looking for? And if you got me a guy on the board that's shut down, I'm taking him. Not on a guy that I think I have to play here for him to be great. Right? Are you with me or are you against me still?
I'm still a little against you just because whenever you see the proof is in the pudding with Harold Perkins, like Denver Harris is still very much a test case of, okay, it feels right when he's out there, but you only have a 5-game sample of him in college. And while the 5 games are good, I think all of these things that are already off the field, that's what is synonymous with Denver Harris, not football. It's more of off the field already as a sophomore.
That's what I'm saying. So if he checks the boxes.
Yeah, if you can get that
which
right.
Brian Kelly
because you're arguing more like position than actual player. I think Harold Perkins will probably be a top 10 pick.
No, I mean, I'm arguing position and player.
Right.
I'm arguing that if that position, if you have that player, he's a high-value pick. That's a high-value pick. If you say somebody can shut down half of the field and you've proven that he can do that in the SEC, think about the guys that have been taken. I mean, think about the guys that have gone within the top 10, that's their resume. That's what they do, right? I mean, look, by no means am I discrediting Harold Perkins. And by no means do I believe that Harold Perkins is not going to be a first-round pick. I just think when you look at Harold Perkins at the NFL, he can't specifically be an edge guy. He can't specifically be a middle guy. He can't specifically play that position that they play. What's his name at Jacksonville from Kentucky? Jack. Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he can't specifically play that position like Josh Allen plays it. He's that type of player, but he's not built like Allen.
Right. And
know?
That's what I'm saying. It's a position thing because Denver Harris, you know exactly what you're getting in that football world of, all right, he's a corner I could put on one side of the field. It's over.
How many teams
Perkins,
need a cornerback
like,
today?
I don't want to mess it up. I don't know what to do, but I need him.
How many teams need a cornerback today? There's 32 teams. 32 teams. How many teams need a specialty player?
All right, that's why I would go in a different
16,
spot.
17?
Yeah, that he goes to the right area.
Absolutely.
And it's like,
okay. There's no doubt that somebody has him targeted today.
I know how to use him.
Today.
Yeah.
Like today. Like going into his sophomore season, there's probably an executive in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Carolina, New York that's saying, the Perkins kid down in Baton Rouge, if he gets to us, we are taking him because we're going to use him exactly like this and he's going to be an all-pro. There are 32 teams that are sitting in the draft room 2 years from now that says, if Denver Harris is on the board and he's got his mentals right, like Brian Kelly was able to get him back into shape mentally, From the football player standpoint, you got a lockdown corner. We need a corner. Don't overthink it. Take Harris. Right? Like, I mean, that's my thought process. Is not that Denver Harris is going to be a first-round pick and Harold Perkins isn't. I'm just saying that the value of Perkins and the value of Harris, when you get to the NFL, there's more value in what Harris does.
If he can do it. That's the thing. It's because you're also inheriting that's more of my point. That's going to follow him regardless of how well he plays or if he ever gets it together. This will still be a mercurial conversation that will always come up around Denver Harris, is what happened at A&M and what has continued to spill over at LSU. I think it'll always be mentioned. He'll be off teams' draft boards regardless. But if he gets it right and plays well as sophomore and junior year, yeah, somebody's going to take a chance on him.
For sure.
Because you can almost, I mean, Eli Ricks is in the same boat.
Exactly.
Where he undrafted free agent.
Exactly.
But
and look what happens in his first time. Look what happens in his first game.
The football's great.
Pick 6.
Yeah.
I mean, like, first time they looked at him, he takes it back to the house.
Matter day.
You know, I mean, it's that's the opportunity that Harris has in front of him.
Mm-hmm. And
that's the opportunity
scary.
that his best friend in Harold Perkins is going after and knows he's not going to screw it up. Like, Perkins is going to get it. You know, like, I mean, Harris, jump in shotgun, man. Ride right next to him. Like,
you don't have to go hard.
Go pick him up for the meal. It's not your responsibility, but I'm just saying, like,
it might have to be.
That's what needs to happen. You know what I mean? Like, until he's like, all right, I get it.
All right, enough. I'm good.
I get it. I mean, this isn't North Shore anymore.
Right, where you can do it. Then that's part of the problem too. He's always been so talented. He's never had to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
They moved heaven and earth to make sure, like, just get him here on
A&M
Friday.
did it.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's.
But it feels like Brian Kelly's not going to want to. He's not playing that game for very long.
Well, he's not going to get on the field here if he doesn't abide.
No, he's already shown him what he's already playing the mind game as soon as he got here, and that's not going through. Like, okay, you're going to be the number 2 overall transfer corner in the portal, right? You come to LSU, you'd expect to be on the first team, puts him on third team. He misses a team meal, you don't get to take it. Like, he's doing all of the subtle things that. Look, I'm not going to outright suspend you, but if you don't understand,
you're trending, though. I mean,
yeah, it's like
read the tea leaves, dude.
How many more slaps on the wrist can I give you?
Time we have to have this meeting, I'm telling you to pack your stuff.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, that's where it is. You knew this when you got here. I explained it to you how we could get here, and now we're here. You know, I mean,
I didn't want to be here.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're at. You know, I mean, you've started fights, you've been a part of fights, you've missed meals, you've been late for stuff, you've done stuff that we have expected you not to do.
We know that you were capable of it, but we had this conversation.
Are you the third team cornerback on this team?
Right.
Absolutely not. Are you running with the third team because you act like a third team cornerback? Absolutely.
And enjoy running down on kick.
And that's just, you know, I mean, you're the only one that can fix it.
Right there. Or you can go and last chance you.
Dex Thibodeau, Jordy is capping so hard. Okay. On what? Is that the Perkins stuff?
Denver Harris versus Harold Perkins. I get what you're saying. It's just the corner is, you know what you're getting in that position and what you need. Perk is just such a different athlete that.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, like, I'd be mesmerized.
I am.
You know, I mean, if I was a scout general manager, I mean, I would say,
and you'll see. I think you'll see what will happen to him because of, like, body type's going to change once he gets you don't want to lose that elite explosiveness and what makes him great.
What did he play at last year?
I guess like that jack position.
Yeah, what was his weight? Do we remember?
215, 220.
What is a guy like Micah Parsons weigh?
Now or in college?
Now, because I think that would be, if I looked at one player in the NFL and I said
245.
245.
That's the thing with Perk. You don't want to.
Can you put 25 more pounds on him and expect him to be able to run like that?
Right, and I don't want that. If I'm just from a defensive perspective, I want what he is now. That almost running back playing linebacker. I know he needs to get bigger, but you don't want to sacrifice size just to lose his elite thing that makes him great, which is explosiveness and being an athlete. If you bog that down too much, you kind of lose what makes him special. Or he could be an even bigger freak show and do it at 245.
If he does it at 245, then he is the number one pick.
He's the first overall.
He's the number one pick.
Yeah.
If he does it at 245, then my argument today is stripped.
Yeah, you're looking at Von Miller, Micah Parsons.
Absolutely. All right, have a good day out there. Hit the like button, share button, comment button. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the show. We will be in the new studio on Monday. We're looking forward to that. So hopefully the hours can get back to a 7 to 9 continuous everyday schedule, as we will have that for you. So hit that like button, share button, comment button. Have a great day. We'll be with you tomorrow. Don't forget about our friends over at Katie's Restaurant in New Orleans. Katie's is located down in New Orleans on Iberville Street. You can get in touch with Katie's today online at katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com is where you can find them online. They have embraced the Sunday new hours over there. They've got 5 new televisions that they've installed. They've got new Sunday hours. They open up at 10 a.m. They close at 6 p.m. So they can help you in your pregame. They can help you in your postgame. Or if you just want to go post up and have a place to watch football on Sundays, remember Katie's on Iberville Street down in New Orleans. katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com is where you want to is where you can find them.
Well, Campbell clocked at 19 miles an hour.
Willie?
Uh-huh. That's grooving, Coach.
Jesus.
Get him the rock.
That is scary.
That's terrifying. And so Lance Heard's name keeps popping up. Keeps popping up.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
He'll be out there.
Yeah,
this
he'll
year.
play. He'll play for sure.
I wonder what Perk ran.
Good question.
Give me those numbers.
Chris Hilton.
Yeah. Oh. Aaron Anderson.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification. We about to go live. We got all your favorite guests. We got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show. Come have a good time. It's the hottest show around. We ain't got to flex. Call up G, we get it done. We earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in. Where they going next? Throw up the L's. Now we lit. Band playing neck. From the boot to the east to the west coast. No matter where we at, we live. Mic'd up for show. Open up the phone lines. Come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about your